Hey, hey, how's everybody doing today?
Hey, hey.
Hey, welcome
Good.
back. Hey, how's that going?
Doing pretty good. How are y'all?
Yeah, pretty good. It's Tuesday instead of Monday. So,
Yeah,
did
we
you guys do anything for Memorial Day?
I'm still moving, so not really. What about you, Charlotte?
I partially did nothing and worked just how I wanted it. We did a quick trip, round trip to Florida for like a 4 day. So I was like, I just need to do nothing for a second. So,
Yeah, well, that's
hmm
probably a nice change up for sure.
Just a little hot.
Yeah,
Florida's so hot. Oh my gosh. I was like, I had forgotten. My blood is totally not acclimated anymore to
I forgot
tropical.
you were in
Hmm
Puerto Rico for some time, right?
Yeah.
About
Oh,
3 years
yeah.
ago.
Uh-huh. My
Yeah,
body has forgotten. It's like, no, 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 we don't do this anymore.
that's funny.
I was suffering.
So quickly our bodies adapt. It's wild.
I know. It is
To
fun.
to anything.
Yeah.
Let's see. We got 7 people in here. Let's bring them in. We'll even let your note taker in today.
Nice.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for your patience. Just catching up with the coaches here before we get started today on our Hormone Happy Hour. Um, Today, I wanted to cover a case study and then kind of talk about thyroid hormone. I've had probably 3 or 4 women over the past 2 weeks come in with hypothyroidism, Hashimoto's, and we've covered this topic. It's probably deep in our archives of recording, but I figured we'd do a refresher on it um, and talk through a specific case I had with a client through this program who was on thyroid medication, could never really seem to lose weight and or get elevations in her thyroid hormone. So sometimes we'll see clients who may be prescribed medication through their primary care, through a functional doctor, and you know the free forms of thyroid, specifically the T3, don't really seem to budge. And I think there's some different theories around that. I'm going to kind of talk about adaptation processes and how that can be impacted at different places in the body. See somebody raised your hand, iPhone. If you have a question, go for it. Maybe that was on accident. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up a document that I made and let me see. Actually, I want to move this. Bear with me. I have this on my second monitor and I want to look at y'all. So let me do this. Okay. Sense. All right. So this is adaptive low T3 signaling. And some of the things that we see a lot with low thyroid hormone is weight loss resistance. That is not the whole picture with hypothyroid. There are a lot of other symptoms associated with it. This specific client had been on T3 medication. Um, she had not really been able to lose any weight despite medication and doing some severe caloric restriction. Nothing really seemed to move the needle until we started working on a reverse diet, being able to regulate her adrenals. But I found it really interesting. We just did some labs on her, and there was some pretty significant improvements. So, some of the big things that I like to hit on with thyroid and metabolism is nutrition and lifestyle. So, for this individual, despite maintaining the same T3 medication, the client's metabolic environment shifted through structured nutrition, lifestyle changes leading to improved free T3 patterns, and overall metabolic health. So low normal free T3. So the client was on a pretty hefty dose of T3. I believe it was around 30 micrograms. Um, the things that I noticed from the metabolic responses, there were signs of metabolic output being blunted despite T3 therapy. So weight loss resistance was one of the key pieces here. And when we look at some of the reference range interpretations, same lab values can have different interpretation based off of reference ranges. The other thing I will tell people is it's not always just one lab. Analyzing patterns and symptoms over several panels is quite helpful. So, through this program, depending on which tier you go through, there's several different labs that are included, so we can see the improvements. So it's not always in isolation. Sometimes it can be looking at that over 3, 6 months into a year and so on. So some of the big things that I've seen, and we'll actually go into some of the labs, her free T3 rose to 3, and that may not seem like a lot to some people. The reference range will go from 2.0 to like 4.0 or 4.2, depending on the lab. But she'd chronically been in the low threes. Improvements in free T4 and reductions of antibodies were something else. She did not have elevation in antibodies, but she had some present. We see the reductions in those. Really just focusing on getting enough carbohydrates, doing enough resistance training, and we'll get into some of the specifics of how that improves thyroid hormone. So kind of chopped up a little bit here, but we have some samples from earlier in 2024. Her T3 was a 2.5, then a 2.1. You can see that on medication, she has a pretty suppressed TSH. But we really couldn't get much improvements in her T3, and that's across 3 different lab panels. This most recent panel here at the bottom was pulled earlier this month. We can see the TSH is still suppressed, but her free T3, this was actually the highest that had been in probably 3 years. So it's kind of giving a comparison. Again, there was not a lot of changes to medication. A lot of this was just focused on of kind of rebuilding the metabolism, giving the body enough food to help that thyroid hormone be more efficient inside cells and inside muscle tissue. I just wanted to highlight the TSH suppression insights. So, again, not medical advice here, but what we say working alongside of a lot of our practitioners, TSH is a good number. We don't want to completely suppress it, but some people are going to feel better at different ranges. She did not have any of the hyperthyroid symptoms with the lower TSH, and having a low TSH sometimes is common with T3 therapy. So that's really why we integrate our medical team here, is to be able to monitor and understand potential implications if thyroid hormone is too high. And there are symptoms present with that: heart palpitations, insomnia. This individual was not having any of those symptoms. Weight loss fears, understanding adaptive low T3 response during weight loss for all of us. We can experience a decrease in T3 and metabolic slowdown. That's an adaptive process. We were just talking before this call about adapting and how quick our bodies will do that. We were talking about the weather. But your body will do that as far as a calorie restriction process as well. So less fuel going in, more output going out. So we're not eating a lot, we're training a lot. Your body is trying to regulate and create homeostasis. So that is going to be an adaptive T3 response, which can slow down weight loss processes. So that's why we would implement strategic refeeds or diet breaks to continue to keep a client able to continue to lose weight. And then kind of talking about the active T3 production and understanding some of the dynamics. So tissue conversion, so skeletal muscle plays a critical role as a major site for the conversion of T4 to T3. So resistance training, having adequate muscle mass is going to be one of the best things to keep your thyroid hormone in an optimal state. I think a lot of times people associate more muscle mass with better metabolism, but thyroid does play a role in that. There are other hormones like glucose, insulin that could also play a role in having more muscle and being able to dispose more nutrients. But that can impact overall metabolic process, energy regulation within the body. So I would say pretty much all of us from a coaching collective are going to want our clients to do resistance training. So it's going to help with metabolism, thyroid hormone. The other piece is there's some enzymatic actions that happen. So you have these diadenose expressions that happen. Um, the diadenose 2 enzyme is in muscle tissue, and that converts T4 into the active form of T3. So that's really just a reduction of an iodine molecule, and that's demonstrating local production of T3. And sometimes we can't necessarily test it, but there can be issues with an absorption of T3 into muscle cells. And I think this individual client was going through something similar here as, she was taking a high dose of thyroid hormone, but metabolically wasn't very fit, did not have very much muscle mass. And as we improve those processes, T3 seemed to improve even from a medication standpoint. Getting into metabolic health. So a healthy metabolic environment enhances diadenose expression 2 activity, supporting efficient T4 to T3 conversion, and underscoring the importance of nutrition and lifestyle around thyroid function. So it's not just medication. That's not going to be the silver bullet that fixes everything. It's kind of the integration of all of these pieces that's going to result in improvements in lab values, improvements in symptoms, and pretty much why everybody's here is that reduction in body fat and improvement in body composition. We have to get everything moving internally for you to be able to see that manifestation of the external and the reduction in body fat and the improvement in muscle mass. Getting a little bit deeper, so we hit on the diadenose receptor, or diadenose expression 2. So we've talked about it converting from T4 to T3, regulated by metabolic conditions. I think the big thing that I would hit on here is inflammation is also one of those metabolic conditions that will downregulate the conversion of T4 into T3. What is inflammation? That could be insulin resistance, maybe high cholesterol, that could be GI issues. And that's why we do such an integrative approach here. It's inflammation is a broad stroke term. We want to be able to figure out exactly where that's happening in the body. Insulin as well. So insulin status directly influences the diadenose expression in muscle tissues. Elevated levels of insulin and diadenose activity promoting optimal T3 synthesis and improving metabolic response in thyroid system. What does that mean? Sometimes when we're in a low carbohydrate environment, our body is not going to be able to convert T4 into T3 as efficiently. Sometimes that can convert into something called reverse T3, and it's just the downregulation of your metabolism. So if any of you have been through the program and your coach is having you do a refeed or increasing calories or a diet break, sometimes that's going to come from carbohydrates because that's going to improve that conversion of T4 into T3. There's a product called Noom, and they try to do something very similar. It's a breath device. They use oh my goodness, I can't think of the term for it. They use basically um, uh, your breath to be able to pick up if what state you're in. If you're burning fat, or if you're more in a glycolytic state, burning carbohydrates. Really, the insulin's role is going to improve that function and allow your body to convert more T4 into T3 and improve metabolic output. One of the biggest things that we see here is chronic underfueling. I will say I don't even see it just in women. I coach a lot of men. I think just with how busy everybody is on a day-to-day basis, we don't stop to eat, or we set alarms to eat. Most of us can skip a meal or two, and we realize we don't eat till dinner. And I can be guilty of that if I'm not on top of things. But Chronically underfueling negatively impacts thyroid hormone. Insufficient nutrition can blunt those deadenose activities, hindering the conversion of T4 into T3 and resulting in reduced activity of thyroid hormone. So I would say that's something I see quite a bit. So if you are eating 1,000 calories and hypothetically you're stuck at 165 pounds and it won't move, your thyroid could play a role in that. There's a lot of other moving pieces, but for the sake of this, is we're just looking at thyroid activity. The other piece is showing how it works. I think this is the other interesting piece. So there's higher levels in TSH. We look at that a lot in blood. You have thyroid releasing hormone that's going to happen in the hypothalamus. That's going to go down and send a negative feedback loop to your TSH, or to create TSH to the thyroid gland. The gland itself will make T4 in a little bit of T3, maybe about 20%. And the T4, most of that conversion is going to happen at the liver, it's going to happen at the kidney, and then there's local conversion. So that will be brain, muscle tissue, what we hit on, and fat tissue. So understanding that it is not just the gland doing that, a lot of your organs are going to convert and break down to make these active forms of thyroid. So this really talks about, this individual. She's actually lost 50 pounds throughout this process, and improvements in thyroid hormone. And really, there was no change in medication. It was just a lot of re-implementing calories as she needed as her weight stalled, and then reducing them as we come into a homeostasis. And it's just kind of this back and forth process had allowed this client to lose that weight. And I would say there's a nuance with everything. So, this demonstrates real world outcomes, but it doesn't necessarily create a universal result. And that's really the beauty in what we do here is it's individual response. There's so many different things that can come into metabolic health. We encompass that from a lot of different angles, from hormones to BHRT to Ashley with our GI, and we have Charlotte here helping with detox, and Lisa has a lot of background understanding thyroid through her own journey in improving her health. So it's not a one size fits all, and it's not there's never absolutes with any of this. So I like to highlight that. Yeah, and I think looking at different perspectives. So focus on extends beyond just weight loss, and improved metabolic signaling and responsive systems are crucial for establishing sustainable health outcomes and overall well-being. A lot of people can get an individual to lose weight through chronic dieting and all of the copious amounts of peptides and things that we're all marketed to, but those things can be unsustainable. Really, what we're after is being able to get the weight off, improve symptoms, and be able to maintain that long term. And just kind of some practical takeaways. So, thyroid panel, kind of understanding where this individual is at, understanding their metabolism, focusing on diet and recovery. Understanding reference ranges will vary from lab to lab, and what your primary care says is normal versus what may be optimal and best for you. It's going to vary. Muscle mass is going to play a huge role in the conversion of T4 into T3. So we're not telling you just to work out just because we like to make you sore and put you through workouts. It's going to have improvements from thyroid to insulin sensitivity to improve metabolism. And the last piece is just individualized care. I think that's the biggest piece. We're able to look at it through different pillars. I wanted to pause and see if anybody had any questions for us about thyroid, or anything in general. But I figured I would cover this today just due to the amount of clients coming in who have hypothyroidism. So I think this was a good refresher. Coaches, do you have any input?
I would say with thyroid, the biggest helper is obviously eating more, but then you can get the targeted minerals coming back into play, magnesium, selenium, iodine, all very simplistic things you could do to help support. Um, and then assessing uh, your drainage pathways, because I know the muscular aspect and having more muscle is important, but also your liver health is very, very important for the conversion of T4 to T3. So you really want to be sure that you have supporting the liver in that case and your gut. So there's a lot of just check off points you could do that don't really cost a lot of money. A lot of it happens with food, honestly, and just mineral supplementation. But depending on how extreme your case is, it may take more. But just some of the baseline things would definitely be mineral supplementation and food quality, and then working with drainage pathways for sure.
I love the spot you hit on the nutritional aspect. If you're under eating food, probably not getting enough minerals. I think that that's one of the simplest places to start. And we talked about the liver's role in converting T4 into T3. I think understanding where you are from um, a detoxification standpoint can also be really helpful. Then you hit on the gut. So I wanted to Ashley to kind of hit on
Yeah.
that and talk
Yeah,
about that.
I was gonna comment on that anyway. I was just gonna say, like, even though like your thyroid produces the T4, but we have to convert it, and so much of that happens in the, I mean, liver, but your gut too has a big piece of that. And so if your microbiome is imbalanced, that really impacts that conversion. And so that you get less T3, T4, T3 conversion. And inflammation, also inflammation in the gut specifically, can increase reverse T3, and symptoms can get worse. And so there's that. And then just like intestinal permeability makes a big difference, specifically with Hashimoto's, just because of how it can contribute to just immune dysregulation. And so when you have autoimmune condition that your immune system is imbalanced, that just it can expose the immune system more to food particles and bacterial fragments and all that, and just amplifies the autoimmune reaction essentially. And then the last kind of piece of that is also nutrient absorption. So we get so much of that in the gut. So when your gut's imbalanced and you're not getting that absorption, we're not getting the things that help the thyroid work like it's supposed to. That's selenium and zinc and iron and iodine and so on and so forth. So that can just impact yeah, how well it's working.
I love it. Yeah, that's all good information. We had a question pop in here. Let me see. What is the difference between T3, T4, and TSH in the role in the body? So your TSH is a thyroid stimulating hormone. It's basically a response from your brain to your gland. When your gland is not making enough hormone, that TSH response increases. And that's, if it gets high enough, they would consider you hypothyroid. Um, your gland itself will make T4 and T3. Those are the forms of thyroid. I think of T4 more as a precursor or a prohormone. It has some roles in the body, but it's not going to have as much impact as your active forms of T3. So, a lot of times, if you go to your primary care office, they may check your TSH. If you're lucky, they may check your free T4. A lot of times, they don't check your T3. And T3 is going to be the hormone that is most metabolically active, supporting metabolism, hair, skin, nails, GI motility, um, lipid metabolism. So you have a lot of thyroid receptors on the liver. So if you have low levels of thyroid hormone in blood and at tissue level, you're going to have a hard time moving and processing LDLs. That's something I hit on a lot because I would say I tend to see with hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's, men or women, but I would say Hashimoto's more times not women have that condition. And they tend to have high LDLs, and if they have low T3 associated with it, kind of working on that process may be helpful. So they all kind of have their own roles. It all starts with the TSH, and then there are other thyroid markers that we'll check to go a little bit deeper. Reverse T3 is something that is an inactive hormone. Ashley hit on how it your body can convert that T3 and to reverse T3 at the gut. That can also happen if you have issues with your adrenal glands. It can also have that same issue if you're not eating enough food. Your body will convert a lot of T4 into reverse T3 to create this metabolic environment to keep you alive. So it's not always this chronic pull in food. What we do a lot is work on reversing food and increasing food to keep that conversion happening and keep the metabolism up. So I hope that answered your question. Charlotte had dropped something in here. So I'd like to learn more about aldosterone and how it works in the body. I was watching a video and its effects and causes puffiness, fluffiness, water. I'm wondering if I can't read today. I'm wondering if that could be a lot of what I'm going through, especially since my sodium levels are always low. Yeah, potentially. I think I'll show you a couple of diagrams. So let's find aldosterone is going to be made at, let me see if I can get this to enlarge. It's going to be made at the adrenal gland. And some of the interesting things with it has a lot to do with mineral retention. So aldosterone will have some impacts on salt retention and managing blood pressure. So a lot of medications for blood pressure actually work off angiotensin 1 or 2. And that's why they're called ACE inhibitors or an ARB, as these medications actually work here to inhibit this process to lower blood pressure. Sometimes if you have some issues with aldosterone, it could be an adrenal issue as well. You know, your adrenals sit on top of your kidneys where aldosterone's made. There's several layers within the adrenal gland. I'll show you a picture of that, but it could be an insufficiency of output of cortisol. It could be an issue with angiotensin 1 or 2. You have something called the renin-angiotensin system, or RAS, RAAS. Let's see if we have a good, yeah, and your adrenals are going to do several things here. So not only cortisol and cortisone, but you're going to have mineralocorticoids. So aldosterone is going to be in here, your glucocorticoids, your androgens. So more of DHEA and estrone are going to be made here. And then your catecholamines like adrenaline and noradrenaline are also made here. So any of these things could impact mineral retention. More times than not, what I see is probably mineralocorticoid or glucocorticoids causing this. But there are several layers within the adrenal gland that where these things will kind of stem from. I think I had one more image. Yeah, and then this is kind of your piece around electrolytes. So you have genomic, so what's happening at the gene level, and the non-genomic. And that's really where you're going to see pH, electrolytes, blood pressure, inflammation, and a lot of that's going to be through angiotensin 2. I don't know if that answers your question, Charlotte, but it could be, I would say it could be adrenals. You could check in aldosterone. Trying to think what else. You could look at a asymmetrical dimethylarginine, or I would say those are things that can kind of show you nitric oxide production, endothelial function at the kidney, and give you some more insights of what's happening at the adrenal.
So to add to that, maybe to give you more perspective, this is for a client, it wasn't for me, I should have clarified, but she is doing more of a carnivore. She's doing carnivore style diet. So obviously there's no carbohydrates coming in, which could be a lack of being able to retain minerals possibly. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
So the only time I ever did a ketogenic diet, I had to quit doing a ketogenic diet because I was chronically dehydrated. Like I could drink, I was doing trace minerals and lots of sodium. Carbohydrates are going to help with that mineral retention as well. So you have sodium glucose transporters. You need glucose, you need water, and you need salt to be able to take that and put it into the muscle. A lot of times, if we are void of carbohydrates, we're not able to absorb minerals appropriately, and that could create a disproportionate amount of potassium to sodium or the inverse of that. So I'm not a huge fan of carnivore diet. I know a lot of people like it. I think it can have a place. I'm not saying I would never do it with somebody, but I think that there are probably better ways. I just feel like it's really extreme. I think fiber is also a really huge piece, and if we're just eating meat, um, it's not probably great for the microbiota. I know there's a lot of people who say that fiber doesn't work and it's not relevant, but I think there's actually like quite a few papers that show that fiber improves like health outcomes pretty significantly, and the higher your fiber gets, the lower your all cause mortality is. So like you want 25 or 30 grams of fiber a day, maybe higher if you can tolerate that, and you're definitely not getting that if you're just eating meat and butter. And that's not to say like I'm shaming anybody to do the carnivore diet. I don't think it's the superior way. I do think like a balance of food, and if you're not really active and you're overweight, you maybe not need a lot of carbohydrates, but some are going to be helpful, especially if we're getting things that are high in fiber. So just my 2 cents on that. I would ask the registered dietitian her thoughts on that.
I agree with what he said. Yeah, I think fiber is very important, and if you're not tolerating fiber, you probably should do a GI map. There's probably a reason why you're not tolerating it. Fiber is really important because it feeds the healthy bacteria that help protect your gut, and that helps you build your immunity and so on and so forth. And then it also ultimately helps you absorb the right nutrients. And if you're absorbing your nutrients, then all the processes in your body work better and you can burn fat better. So all of those things are important. I think that's, yeah. And I think just any extreme diet, you miss things that your body needs for the most part. And so leaving it at that kind of, I think is important. I know a lot of people feel great on it. But I think long term, I think it can be a little more inflammatory. And again, I think you're missing some really important nutrients that you get with fruits and veggies. And then again, just like gut health overall, I think has such a huge impact on your brain and your skin and your hair. And like there's so much more to it. So yeah, not my favorite thing, but to each their own.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions? We're happy as a collective to answer anybody's questions.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Hey, Amy, yes, we can hear you.
I just wanted to say hello. This is my very first day meeting you guys. I literally just signed up on the program less than an hour before coming on to this particular call. And I'm just saying thank you in advance. I'm at a point in my life where I really believe that things come to us when we're finally ready, right? We all know that statement. Teacher, when the student's ready, the teacher shows up here. I believe I'm going to get some good help from you guys. But I'm just excited to finally address my underlying issues at 60 now. I'm finally ready to do this. But again, I've been looking here, looking there, trying this, trying that. Hey, I did carnivore 2.5 years ago because the person I was living with, I loved him. I thought, well, I'll make you a ribeye every night. Sorry, I lost my light, you guys. Sorry. I did it. I don't think it was good for me. It wasn't. I know it wasn't. So, but I appreciate your explanation on that as far as not getting enough moisture from the carbs, and that has a big role in how we absorb the minerals and the gut microbiome and et cetera. But anyway, I just wanted to say thank you. I think this is excellent, the content you're providing. We all need knowledge. to make our best decisions for what is best for us. And the more knowledge we have, the more empowered we are to stay on course with what we're doing for ourselves. Anyway, thank you.
Amy, where are you located?
I live in Naples, Florida.
Okay, very nice. We have quite a few clients all around the world, honestly, but in Florida. And yeah, I would say, it's never too late. We have people in this program in their 70s, really making radical change with their health. And we're really excited to have you here and get things started with you. So thank you for introducing yourself.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate the feedback and the support.
Absolutely.
I can feel it already.
Yep, I'm excited for you. We will we'll sit down and review your lab information as you go on. And if you just signed up, you probably haven't met with the coach yet, but you'll get assigned and talk with one of them, and we'll get
Sure.
everything rolling.
Sure. Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you. It's nice meeting you.
And likewise.
So I have one more question pop in here, and any coach wants to chime in here, but how can you improve hypothyroid by resistance training and nutrition? I'll hit on some of the resistance training components. I think it can be a double-edged sword. I think we can overtrain and do too much resistance training, which can create more of a stress response, which can downregulate thyroid hormone. Being able to do more resistance training, though, and having more muscle mass is going to help with conversion of T4 into T3. And really why I wanted to cover this, there's actually been some recent research showing that adaptive T3 signaling in muscle tissue and how that can impact metabolism and hypothyroidism. As far as the nutritional component, very similar to what Charlotte hit on initially, is making sure we have enough minerals. Some of the things that I think a lot of people are deficient in, selenium is probably one of the key minerals I see most people not getting enough. I actually have to supplement selenium because I don't like Brazil nuts and I don't eat enough pork to get selenium. So I take a 200 microgram selenium every day. I am hypothyroid. I've been on thyroid medication for 5 years. I think iodine, and there's some caveats with that. If you have reactivity with antibodies, iodine can be an issue for some people, but say it's just hypothyroidism, iodine can be helpful. I would say a lot of people with GI issues potentially have low zinc as well. Zinc is one of the minerals that are going to help convert thyroid hormone as well. So it's a lot of different minerals. And then how we would assess that is looking at your nutritional patterns as well as mapping out something like a GI map to understand, do you have H. pylori? Is there issues with mineral absorption? Are we having issues with pancreatic enzymes? And are we able to break down and partition food? So multifaceted, but nutrition and nutrition and resistance training are going to be kind of key components as we do diagnostics, as we recommend supplements for those who go through and meet with our medical team. We really want that focal point to be your lifestyle because that's the biggest piece. We've all had clients here who want to take a ton of hormones and peptides and 50 supplements, but not want to track their food or do resistance training. They just tend to not make as much progress. So I really think kind of honing in on those lifestyle components is the biggest piece. Do we have any more questions? All right. Well, I hope everybody had a great Memorial Day if you're here in US, and I appreciate everybody hopping on and spending time with us. And we will get this transcription and video loaded into the app, and we'll see everybody in 2 weeks. Thank you all. Have a great day.